The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good afternoon, Houston. You know, I always have to stop because we have shows across the country, and some of them are in the mornings and some of them are in the afternoons. What's so great about our Houston show, we had done radio, local radio, for 8 years in Houston, and it was always on a Sunday. Now, for us believers, that's a rough day for us. And so we know that in this business that there's more people who listen during the week than on weekends. And when we got the opportunity to come on and do a TV show and a podcast and a radio show and do it on a Friday afternoon, it was like God was been watching over me. No more Sundays. And today's a very special show because with some of our experts, we develop a relationship. Kind of like if you're a believer, you understand what I'm saying. You have a relationship with the Lord. Well, we developed a relationship with one of our experts. In fact, this is the first time we've ever seen face-to-face. And I am so blessed to have her on the show. She is one of the finest attorneys in the Houston area, in the areas of estate planning, wills, probate, and we'll be getting into that today. But this is, and I'm not supposed to say this is my favorite. She is my favorite. She would have started last month, but she had to have surgery of all things on her vocal cords. So let me introduce you to one of the finest estate planning attorneys. And let me tell you something. I do estate planning attorneys all over the country with our show. She is the finest estate planning attorney that I've ever met. And I'm so excited that we're going to do her first TV show today. Let me introduce you. I am in awe of attorney Julia Dean. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much.
I warned you.
Well, you're more than kind. I'm very humbled by your introduction.
Well, I believe it with all my heart, and I am so glad that we have such you can't say this, but I can, an expert that is going to be teaching people out there. And I want to tell you something. We'll be giving out Julia's phone number throughout the show. If you're watching on TV, we'll be scrolling information about her. If you're listening on radio, we'll give out her phone number. Write this down. And because I'm going to tell you something, whether it's just even a will, you will need an estate planning attorney. If you already have someone, you might even want her to give it a second look at. There might be something that you're missing. So I guess the best way to get started is tell people about your firm and yourself, Julia.
Well, excuse me. I am so honored to be here. I am just I love the area of estate planning. It is my passion because I get to help people, and I get to help people proactively. I started out in commercial litigation. I know all the pitfalls, but I also realized that is not my personality. I really wanted to help people and thinking that way I could. But really, as time progressed, I realized I was just in the fray of fights and arguments and contests. And what I really wanted to do is prevent people from getting there in the first place and keeping family harmony. And so I went from civil appellate litigation and commercial litigation into estate planning. I've never been happier. So I did that about 16 years ago. I made a full switch. I had dabbled in that area before, knew it was an area I'd love. And so when I got a chance to do that, I have been just amazed by how wonderful it is to deal with people on a regular basis and to promote family harmony and to proactively prevent some issues for people. So.
Well, what you do is so important. You know, a lot of people, when they say estate planning, they think you have to have millions of dollars, and that's not true.
It's not. If you have any assets at all, you need to come in and do some planning. And sometimes people think of trust that way too, that you only use trust if you're uber wealthy. Well, no, you use trust for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's just to avoid probate or have better disability protection. So you're right. We all need something in place to protect us. And we're all concerned about whether it's our children or other loved ones, or maybe we have special needs children in our family. And we want to make sure they're taken care of for their lifetime as well.
You know, I got to tell you, I'm going to bring this up. We never know what's going to happen to us. I mean, we're living right now, but an hour from now, we have no idea what the Lord has plans for us. And there has been people, and I'll use Prince as a great example. Here's a guy, multi-millionaire, has all these managers around him, and he passes away with no will. How do you do that? I mean,
yes, it's hard to understand.
It is.
And I think part of that is we have this feeling that we're kind of invincible for a while.
Yes.
And we don't want to think about the thought that we might pass away or that we're mortal. You know, we may know that we have, you know, heaven to look forward to and a long eternity, but at the same time, we need to take care of those people here. And so not taking care of our family here is not being a good steward of the assets and the legacy that the Lord has given us.
Exactly. You know, it must be tough for you. And this first show, and we've got so many more shows after this, but I kind of want to get into who you are, because when you trust in somebody, especially with estate planning, boy, you are really putting your whole life out there and your family. Yes. And you've got such a big heart. How do you do it when these families start fighting over the money?
Well, you know, it hurts my heart too. And so, but I really try to intervene and try to be, in a sense, you know, informal mediator for them too, and to see their family just come together in the best way possible. I know that's not always possible. Sometimes we do have really difficult situations, but if we can avoid litigation, that's the best thing for everybody and the best thing for the family, because certainly going to court is going to just make things worse, and it costs a lot of money. And it just causes issues that are pretty irreparable after a while.
Especially when it comes to probate, because probate can get really expensive. Yes. So here you are teaching somebody, showing someone how they can stay out of the probate court, which is only going to save them money.
Right.
Which is strange hearing that from a lawyer.
Well, that's true. I guess my heart is
to go to court.
Best for you. And I think that's the most important thing we can do, is give you value and do what is most important for you and your family. Because is it better for you to be in court and litigating these things? Of course not. So let's do what's right for you. And in the long run, that's going to be best for everyone. And I feel like it's always important to do the right thing and what's best.
You know, there's also, when it comes to special needs planning, especially for our kids, people just do not know all that's available to them.
That is true.
With you, I mean, you've got a whole list in your head that people may have never thought about. And I went through that with a daughter who was autistic and didn't realize when she turned 18, she was awarded the state now.
Right.
That
It's
was scary.
amazing. One day can make a difference. That, the day before they turn 18, you have
Yes.
all the ability to make the decisions like you need to as a parent. The day they turn 18, you have none. Whether that's special needs or you're just your minor children turning adults, now you can't get access to talk to their teachers or their school records, or can't get to their medical information, can't make their medical decisions for them. All of these things. But I learned the hard way when my daughter turned 18 and she was in college. She was in a horrible motorcycle accident, and the doctor wouldn't call us or talk to us until she came to and could let us know. And we found out through a roommate. And, that's a horrible thing to learn. And you think, okay, I should know that. Yeah, I should. But you kind of get in a different mindset as a parent, and you kind of think everything's just going along fine. You don't have to worry about it. But one day changes everything. And it's special needs. It's so much more important because they need your advocacy so much more than, just, the rest of us turning 18. So, and there's so many things available to them too. Yes.
You want to get started with this early too, because we found out after our daughter turned 18. And first of all, it was a shock. Now you got to make memos on everything you do for them, and you got to turn that into the state. And it's something that if you have a special needs child that is getting ready to turn 18, please, please, please call attorney Julia Dean. See what your options are. Don't do there's not a book out there that says when your daughter or son turns 18, you kind of find out for yourself.
You do, the hard way.
Yeah. And I think, you're there for people. You can help them navigate through, oh my God, the government, which is not easy to do.
Right.
So I love the fact that you work with special needs. And I also love the fact that you delve in is elder law.
Yes,
because there's so much to elder law, Julia.
Mm-hmm. There certainly is. And I think all of us, and I'm dealing with my own mom now, we get to a point where we're taking care of our parents and we're just not sure what to do or how to navigate these things. And there's so many resources out there that I can help you navigate through those. And legally, we can protect assets so that we can not be impoverished, especially if we have a spouse that needs care. We don't want to impoverish the other spouse. So there's trust planning we can do to prevent that from happening. And what a wonderful gift that is to the spouse that still needs to live for several years, and sometimes decades. We don't want to leave them with nothing, So.
Also very important is things like long-term care. I mean, who thinks about that?
Right.
And it could get quite expensive. There's so many things that you can do nowadays, how you can help a client that needs to be educated. There's so much power of attorney. There's so much that you can do for your client that they're not going to know to do this on their own.
And that's what I get when people come in. It's like, wow, I never realized there was so much to this. And it's like, yes, this is really an educational time. My initial consultations are educational. And I think that's important because most people come in thinking, well, I know I need a will and probably some powers of attorney, financial and medical, but there's so much more. And just even what you want in a will or maybe a trust, what does that look like? Why do we need that? Maybe we need tax planning. Maybe we need some asset protection for the children, maybe divorce protection. We don't want to get taxed again and again through the generations. So maybe we need some legacy generational planning. Maybe we have, as we talked about, special needs children or parents that are aging. What can we do for them? So, we're looking at all of that. We're also looking at our own disability. And I think that fear of our mortality, but fear of our disability also keeps us from planning. But if people come in and plan, what I see is that sense of relief. Like, oh, there's peace of mind now because I don't have to worry about it anymore. All the legal documents are in order. If something happened, I know who's going to do this. I know how it's going to be taken care of. And so that's a wonderful relief.
I'll bet you, oh, I can't believe I'm going to forget this name now. I'll bet you the Shiveleys.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the family that the daughter was in a
Oh, Shivo. Yeah.
Yeah, Shivo. That's right.
Yes.
I mean, look at the fight that went on because this was never really taken care of.
Yes. For people who don't know, this was a woman. She was married in her 30s, I believe. I think she started in her 20s, and she was on artificial life support for over 10 years. And everything was in the court system because her parents wanted her to continue on life support, but her husband did not and wanted a divorce. And so there was this long, prolonged legal battle on whether or not artificial life support should be withdrawn or not. And so this just kind of highlights the importance of, wow, we can plan that beforehand. We can say, I want artificial life support, or I don't want artificial life support, or maybe I want some of it and I don't want others. So in Texas, that includes things like heart-lung machines and ventilators, kidney dialysis, tube feedings, and IV fluids. Well, I find some of my clients, well, I want IV fluids, but I don't want the rest, or I want some of these things, not the others. And so, it's really important to have thought through that. And then you can let your loved ones know, but also the hospitals and the doctors, because otherwise their responsibility is just keep you alive and do any intervention that they can. And there's a lot of artificial interventions that can keep us going, but not with the quality of life. So then we have to decide, is that what we want or not?
Yeah, it's really, we never know. God, there's crazy drivers out there. I'm still going through the effects of COVID, and we just never know. And I think one of the most important things you need is power of attorney.
Absolutely.
That there's a voice out there in case you're incapacitated, you can't make any decisions.
Those are critical pieces, and actually some of the smaller pieces in terms of what we do for people, but so critical is having the financial power of attorney that's comprehensive, that deals with a variety of areas. In Texas, we have a state statutory form. It's not very helpful, and most financial institutions won't honor that. And so people get very frustrated with that. So we do update and make that much more comprehensive. So it goes into detail about the things that the financial institutions need to know in order to honor that power of attorney. Even better way is a living trust and having, or some other kind of trust where the funds are actually inside a trust. So you have a successor trustee that can just step in your shoes, and that happens just immediately. We can either do it upon 2 independent doctors' letters of stating a disability, or you can determine how that's decided. That's usually how we do it. But it just allows for that ease of access. So we're not waiting on a court to decide and a guardianship, because that's our only other option. If they say, okay, we don't like your power of attorney, then we're in court getting a guardianship. And that is a very expensive, very time consuming, and if you have any capacity, a very humiliating process as well. So our goal is always keep you out of court, and so if we can do that, and you talked about we don't need a whole lot of wealth. Well, with a living trust, you really don't. We just want to avoid probate. We want to have better disability protection. We want to have something better than just a power of attorney to take care of our finances.
I saw a commercial the other day where the new wife of dad that people aren't real happy about, and because of the way he did not take care of his planning, she was going to get a lot of his wealth. And the children had a chance to sit down and take care of this earlier, and they didn't, and this is what happened.
Right. And And that's a decision that the married couple needs to make. Are we going to, especially in a blended family situation, are we going to provide fully for the spouse and then for the children? And if so, do we want to make sure that that spouse can't go get married and it goes to another spouse? Can we put it in trust to make sure, okay, they can use it, but if there's something left, and when there is, that would pass on down to my children? Or do I want to make a provision for the children now? And every person's situation is different. So some may want to make that provision now and some may want to wait, but they still want to make sure, okay, it's going to get to my kids. And so there's ways to do that and provide for both. So that's interesting. That came up in a commercial. I haven't seen
Yes.
that.
I tell you something else, because I just think that with all the legal areas of law, that estate planning is so important. And you can also help people with their taxes too, is that they're not tax death on a lot of these things because they don't know this is what you do. Is this the biggest part of your practice, Julia, is estate planning?
It is. It's probably, I would say, the vast majority, yes, probably 70% of what we do is estate planning, because all those other areas, they intersect with it.
I want to say this is something, after 10 years doing this, I have learned I'm not putting anybody down, but I wanted you to understand how important it is when you have an attorney that most of her practice is estate planning. So there's attorneys out there, I'll see that their shingle says personal injury, criminal law, estate planning. And you go, how do they do all that? And then you have Julia here that she focuses her practice on estate planning. That's who I want to handle my business, someone who concentrates in an area.
Well, and that is so important because there's so many facets to our estate plan. And I do see attorneys jumping in and doing a will for someone and they just pull a form. Well, they don't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
And they can make things worse for people and they create problems. And that's the same thing with do-it-yourself wills online. Most people don't know what they're doing. And so I would say probably over 80% of the time when I see do-it-yourself wills or I see a will from an attorney that doesn't know what they're doing, it's thrown out or we have major issues with it and the court has to intervene and we have a whole lot more court issues and cost because of that, because we have to have reformations and agreements and other things going on.
I don't want anybody thinking I'm putting other attorneys down. I am not. I just, you know what, if I have a marital problem, I want an attorney representing me. That's all they do is concentrate on family law. Same thing with estate planning, because I have seen attorneys out there that they think, hey, I can just I also do wills. And it's just, they don't. I mean, this is a field that, when you've been practicing for a long time, like Attorney Dean is, you see everything. And I hope people will understand where I'm coming from. I think it's very important that when you choose an attorney, that you look at, are they in court all the time because of litigation with other areas of law? That's not who I want. I want someone who concentrates in a certain area and knows that area really well. I mean, it's almost like going to a family physician when you've got an orthopedic problem. I want to go to an orthopedic surgeon. Right. Am I okay on that?
You are. Actually, I don't represent myself, even though I've worked in other areas of law. If I have a litigation situation, or if I always refer those out now. And for myself, I would do that too. And I have done it. If I was injured in a car accident, I wouldn't handle it myself. So it's true. It's family law. I'm not handling it myself, even though I know that area pretty well. But the good thing is I have been in those areas in the past that when I do the planning, I can spot those issues. but I would never delve into that myself if I wasn't experienced and up to date on what's happening now, even though I've had experience in the past. So,
Well, let's delve into some of the areas of estate planning again. I wanted people to really get to know you, and you're going to be with us twice a month. We're the lucky ones, but let's talk about wills and living trust first. And why do people choose one over the other?
Well, it's a really good question. For most people, let me give you an analogy I think might be good. When we're a minor child or we have minor children, we have a parent that's kind of watching over that. So with a will, we can't do anything with that will until we have the court watching over that will say, okay, that will is valid, and give it its stamp of approval, and then give us the authority to deal with that estate, because otherwise it could be a great will, but until the court says it's good and you can act on it, you can't do anything with it, even though you're named. And so we have to go through this court process, which of course has its own expense. And if it's husband and wife, you have that double expense. And anywhere you have real estate in another estate, you have that expense. And so a lot of people also don't like it they don't like it public. They want it private. So, and they want to have immediate access. They don't want to wait months for a court to say, okay, you can go ahead and deal with this estate. So if instead we have a living trust and we put our assets into that trust, or they flow through that trust through beneficiary designation, we can avoid the court process. So now it's like you're an adult. You have that freedom. You can deal with the estate without having kind of intervention within the bounds of the law. So just like us as adults, we do have laws that we have to follow, but we have a lot of freedom within those laws. So we have freedom to go ahead and to effectuate the estate under the terms of the living trust. So the living trust terms are so important because that's the roadmap. Those are the laws in place that we follow, but we can do that with a lot of independence and freedom. Whereas with the will, if we have a dependent administration by a court, they're checking out everything. They're supervising everything. They're okaying everything before you can do it. There are independent administrations with a will and probate, which give you a little more freedom, kind of like a teenager. You give them a little more freedom, right, but you don't give them complete freedom, So there's still a watching over them. There's still requirements to the court. So, it kind of depends on what your goals are. But most people that I see, once they find out kind of the benefits of the living trust and that overall it's going to cost a lot less for them, and they're going to have that freedom from the court. It's going to go faster. They're going to have the privacy that they wanted, and they're going to have their trustee, their successor trustee will have near immediate access, which can be critical for a family that has access to those funds right away. So we want to just make that a smooth transition. The other nice thing about a living trust is it's also a disability plan for you too, as we talked about a little before. So it kind of works like you both are the trustees, if you're a husband and wife, of the trust. And if something happens to one of you, the other has full control, kind of like a joint account. But even better than that, upon both of you, your disability or death, you can have someone step in right away. So let's say you're both disabled, then that allows the person you've named, maybe it's a child or somebody else, a friend, who could step right in and handle your estate. And, that just makes it so easy because we don't have creditors coming down, on you when you're in the hospital or whatever. You've got someone helping you, and they can immediately step in and take care of these things for you. So I find most of my clients, once they understand the benefits of this and the drawbacks, we go through all of that. They usually tend towards a living trust because it just gives so many more valuable benefits to them at a decreased cost overall.
Living trusts aren't expensive either.
No, really, for what they're giving you, and
yes,
and the probates that you're avoiding, and the guardianships, that's even more expensive that you could be avoiding. You could be saving tens of thousands of dollars or more just by getting your planning done up front. And you invest a little more up front, but you get more on the back end.
Well, our radio people, I know the radio people because they're asking to give out your phone number because on the TV version, we are showing your phone number. Let's give everybody your phone number, Julia.
So it's 281-277-3326.
Now, are you using Zoom now with some of your clients? Because I just
So
noticed
COVID changed us. It was like the monkey wrench that threw, that was thrown in at all of us. And so we've changed so much, and you can do an in-person, you can do a Zoom consultation. We can remotely notarize things. So we deal with people all over the state of Texas. I also have an attorney in Tennessee and Kentucky. And so, we have people like expats that are across the world, and we're signing documents for them because they live in these states, and we can go ahead and set up trusts for them, or wills for them.
Well, because we just got a text from a viewer in Huntsville.
Oh, great.
Huntsville, Texas, and they want to know that if you do Zoom, because it is kind of far to travel.
Right, we do. And we can do remote notarizations as well and signings. So, usually the signing is best in person, but we can do it the other way, but we can do everything else by Zoom too. So it makes it really easy. And I love that.
I'm curious what you think of the current laws out there as to estate planning. Is there anything you would like to see changed?
Oh, that's a big question. Yes. Some other states have domestic asset protection trust. And so in Texas, I can do some maneuvering and I can protect assets really well for spouses, our own assets. But it's harder for single individuals without going to another state or going offshore. And so I'd really like to see that in our state too.
Okay. It's here in Florida, we've got a major problem. My problem is that we had this huge condominium just go down. It was called Surfside. And they found out that a lot of people that they didn't realize all the problems with the condominium. So now they're going to go to, if your condo is 3 stories or higher, they're going to bring in all kinds of, which is good. They're going to bring in all kinds of specialists, architects, engineers. It's going to be very costly. And to people who are what I call senior citizens, it's going to be really, really tough for them because they live basically month to month. And now they're going to have this big expense coming in, which is supposed to save lives. But see, you need that information so you can give somebody a real good roadmap to their future. Yes. And so I think some people are going to really have to have someone like you. They can come back in. And I don't know how often you think people, if it's every 2 years or 3 years, but things do change people's lives.
Yeah. I would say anytime there's a major event in your life, it's a time to relook at your estate plan. But also, I would take it out every 2 to 3 years. That's a good benchmark. And just look at it. Like we give our clients a summary of their will or their trust. We give them a confirmation of names and fiduciaries. And those 2 documents really kind of give them an overview of their estate. So it's really easy to look at, oh, yeah, well, I might want to change out that trustee. Or, yeah, well, I did that trust for that person, but I'd like to modify it a bit. And so, that makes it just really easy to come back in and make those changes. But I do think that's important. And we do have a continuing, it's important for me to have a continuing relationship with my clients. I like to treat them like I would my own family. And to me, that means follow up and making sure they know what they have and they're educated. But we have a preferred client maintenance program that we just continue with our clients. We have them, we help them with funding of their trust or just understanding what it means. And so those things to us that we get in place and we follow up with them and that they know when they come here, we're establishing a relationship with them that will last throughout their lifetime and through the generations.
I heard a phrase, it's called simple will. What does that
Yes.
mean?
So I think most
Sounds
people think
sounds too
all they
easy.
need is a simple will, right? And I hear that a lot. And I think what I figured out people mean from that, because they say, well, I just have a very, our situation is easy. It's just us and our children, and it's just one marriage. And so, or the other thing that they might mean is, well, I don't have many assets. I don't need the big trust planning. But what I find is people really do need more than they think. And very few people just really need a simple will. So a simple will for us as estate planning attorneys, all that means is there's no internal trust. Well, I can tell you every trust I have will have at least a contingent trust, 2 contingent trusts for minor beneficiary children and contingent trusts for special needs children, or individuals or beneficiaries, because you never know when that's going to happen. So I would never leave a trust without those contingent trust planning. But most people want more. They want more because they want to protect the assets that are going to their loved ones. They want to make sure if there's a divorce, it's not going to the divorcing spouse. They want to make sure if they're in a lawsuit, that the money they gave them, the assets they gave them, they're not going to go away. They're going to stay with them. And they have this protected nest egg throughout the rest of their life. And if they get vulnerable at some point in time, predators can't get it. And they want to make sure, and I get this a lot, that Uncle Sam doesn't get anything more than he needs to get. So if we can get away, if we can take away those taxes, we can eliminate them, or we can reduce them, then I want to make sure we are. And so it's amazing how many people pay needless taxes. And so when I'm looking at someone's estate, most of the time I can eliminate any kind of death tax, or what we call estate tax. And sometimes I can, if they have a very large estate, we're minimizing that or eliminating it as well, because of the different ways we can do that. So we can do it in a variety of ways, but there's some really simple ways that for people that are just barely over the exemptions amount, we can cover that, or even up to twice that amount. So we're constantly looking at, okay, your situation may seem simple to you, but it's not necessarily in terms of how we build your estate. But it's my job to make it seem simple to you. I just want to give you the overview. I'll deal with the details. I'll deal with the hard part of it. But I just want to make it work for you when you need it to work. So you're going to find a lot of contingency planning, because I need it to work for you in those times you're not even thinking about may come up in your life or after you pass away.
I brought up about a simple will because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Larry King, now I'm kind of dating myself, wrote his will on a napkin. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than that.
No, it doesn't.
But what's amazing is these people who have a lot of assets have people helping them with planning that don't do anything. How do they do that?
Right. Yeah. You wonder how they have all this money and all these people around them, and either they're not listening to them or they're not giving them good advice. And so, we want to make sure that regardless of the assets that you have and the situation you're in, we want to make sure it's protected, secure. We can amplify your legacy in ways that you don't even know. And we can protect it for your generations and make it just a wonderful legacy for your future generations. And isn't that what we want to do, is just leave a legacy, whether it's financial or it's spiritual or it's philanthropic, we want to make sure we're leaving good things behind for our family, and that they have a good taste in their mouth, when they think about us. That's what we want.
Well, I'm going to tell people a little inside about this show. Our shows are now 25 minutes long. So within the hour, there's usually going to be 2 shows. But attorney Julia Dean, I knew had so much to offer, and also in the future. But I wanted her on longer today because it was important. I wanted to get our viewers' attention that this is something they can't just keep putting off anymore. That, it's okay to go in and listen, you might learn something you never knew that could save you a lot of money.
Right.
So I wanted her on, and we'll do this from time to time. We'll extend her show longer. I got to tell you, there's so much in estate planning, Julia, that I want to go through. And a lot of it has to do with long-term care and preparing people, because I don't think they know some of these rates, how high they've gone.
No, it is incredible. Yeah. We're looking at that now for my mom, and we're overwhelmed, by how much it is. And there's 4 children, it still would be a struggle for everybody or one person to do it. So, yeah.
It's not going down. And I tell you how big it's become. We've actually had one of the largest assisted living companies in the United States has contacted us after watching our show. They want to come on our show now, which is really good. And we already have a home care company. But good. Julie, I cannot thank you enough. Let's give everybody who's listening on radio your phone number and your website again.
Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure to be here. My phone number is 281-277-3326. And my website is juliadeanlaw.com. So that's JuliaDeanLaw.com. And I would love to be able to help you out. So please just reach out. We try to make it as comfortable as possible. We know it can be intimidating coming into an attorney's office. We try to make it as comfortable as possible for you. And I hope, we love you coming in. We love getting to know you.
Let me tell you something. They truly mean that. I know that about Julia. So we're going to see you in a couple weeks. You'll be back, not next week, but the week after. And now you've really set the bar high. So we'll have to see what we're going to talk about next time. But
sounds good.
Julia, thank you so much. You know how much I appreciate you and your practice. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
That's attorney Julia Dean,
joy.
estate planning attorney. And hey, we will be with you all next week with more Ask the Experts. Have a wonderful and blessed Easter.
Happy Easter to you.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.